Welcome. I'm Dr. Lisa Toppin, and you are joining Inputs to Action. Here's where we talk about issues, we explore them, and then we take our guest counsel to take action. Today, joining me are my brother and sister-in-law, Derek Mcginty and Cheryl Cooper. And for this topic, we're talking about retirement today, and not so much the financial aspect of it, but the emotional aspect, how to approach it, how to think about it. And I started looking around thinking, who could I talk to about this issue? And then I realized I didn't need to go far. I've got family who are living their best lives, at least from my point of view. So welcome, you two.
Hey, it's good to see you.
It's good to have you. I am really interested to have this conversation because as I was sharing with you, I hear so much from folks who are my contemporaries who are starting to hit that space of thinking about or considering retirement, and they're hesitant to retire. I had one friend who actually stopped working and then restarted because she just was unsure about what she was going to do, and just found more comfort in actually going back to work. So first and foremost, how are you enjoying retirement? And is it what you imagined it would be?
Who's going first? You want to go first?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm enjoying it, Lisa. I really am. It's better than I imagined it to be because I retired a little younger than I thought I would. So I still have my health, I still have money to spend, and excitement and the ability to travel and do new things. So I'm enjoying it a little better than I thought I would.
Good answer. I think it was tougher for me. I think because it wasn't entirely voluntary. Cheryl made a decision that she was going to leave, and it just so happened to kind of coincide with the same time that my contract at WUSA here in Washington was not being renewed. And so I'm 55 or so, and they're telling me, hey, you know what? We don't want you. And I'm thinking, well, I could probably not work again. I'm okay financially, but emotionally, I found it much more difficult, more than I thought. Because at first you're just glad, no more work, no more long nights, no more covering snow days, no more doing any of the stuff that I didn't like. But there was things that I did like that I missed. I missed being part of the team. I missed having somewhere to go every day. I missed, you do kind of have to get used to that. I will say that over the last few years, I have gotten used to it. I've had some nibbles and some opportunities to perhaps work more, and I'm going, man, I'm lazy now.
Right.
I'm not trying to work that hard anymore. So that's basically where I am.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I remember, there was a point where you were, I'm going to call it, in the middle of the slog, and you had the 11 o'clock broadcast,
Yeah.
and you did not really love the fact that you missed the dinner hour, and that you know what I mean, that your dinner hour was in sort of in the evening and a small amount of time, so you couldn't really hang out, and it sort of messed up the week hangout, so to speak.
I did not like the hours. That is for sure. And I never wanted to be the 11 o'clock anchor. It was kind of thrust upon me in 2008, and I just did it. But I never wanted that, and it just it's the nature of the business, right? I had a lot of hours I didn't like over the years, right? So you get used to the idea, but as you got older, things become a little bit more, as you say, a slog, and you start thinking, man, I could be doing something else. That was the other thing I really liked when I left the station was suddenly I had my evenings free.
And it was a test, Lisa. It was a test of our relationship because for the last 5 years he had worked evenings and we didn't see one another a lot.
So, a couple days a week was it.
Right. And so when we retired, I said, "Oh, this is a true test of whether we really like one another." And I think it's for couples too, because when couples retire together and they're in the same home every day, all day, it's a true test.
Yeah. Yeah. I could totally see that. And you all came into it at the same time. You sort of decided you're going to take a train that was running and leave. And it happened that his contract and all of that sort of came right. You all were ending really almost like the same month.
Literally was the same month. Literally was the same month.
Yeah.
I done in September of 2015. I think she was too.
Yeah. So Cheryl, when you said that you thought that this was better than you had imagined it. So what did you imagine, and So how is it really better outside of the fact that you all tested the relationship and obviously you're still standing, which is good, Derek. We're glad you worked that out. We would have been
Oh yeah,
mad.
me too. Me
But
too.
anyway, so
Well, but Lisa, I'm like I said, I was younger, so I was 59 when I retired, and I had the ability to go back to AARP and get 5 more years of pension credit. So my pension was going to be larger than I anticipated. I had more money. I had the desire to just travel more, and the vitality and the outlook of I have like maybe 30 more years if I'm
yeah,
lucky to
yeah,
have fun and to do something because I quite frankly was tired of working. I had started working when I was 14
right.
and I was in a position that I did not like. So it became, you talk about a slog, it was
Mm,
really a chore for me to get up and go into work.
right.
And when I decided after we restructured at the company
Yep.
that I wasn't going to take the new position, I said, this is the time for me to live my life. I had buried my entire family except for my niece. So my two siblings were gone. My mother was gone. I never really knew my dad. It was time for me to just take a break. And if I didn't like it, I felt I could go back to it, go back
Yeah.
to work. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah, no, you and I've had some conversations that somebody was trying to get you to do some heavy duty consulting, and you were like, not so much.
He
So
wasn't.
now, before COVID, I remember that the two of you would talk about going to the movies on Mondays, and so you sort of had certain aspects of how did you think about filling your time? How did you set that up initially? What was the
That's
how did you get
a
to?
very good question because for me, I mean, after I get up, I tend to get up early anyway. Get up, I work out. I look at the newspapers. Now it's noon. What are we going to do with the rest of the day? And quite frankly, some days not much, right?
Right.
We just kind of hang out. Some days, she'll go off shopping, or I'll go off and do something. But it's very relaxed. It takes some getting used to, right? And people think, my fantasy about, I had never thought really about not working anymore. But when it kind of hit and happened, and I realized I thought, man, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna be just hanging out, watching what I want, doing what I want. And I tell you, that time does. I mean, it piles up a little bit. I think at times.
Mhm.
But I think it's important to have a routine, even in retirement. And
Okay.
that's one of the things that I strive because I'm the one who tries to do that for us. And I said to him, I said, there are a couple of things, a trip a month, so we have to go someplace every month, even if we get in the car and drive to Philadelphia or New York. We have to take a trip a month. We had matinee Mondays that you referred to, where we would go to the movies in the afternoon on Mondays. Before COVID, we would go to Flywheel on Fridays.
Spin class.
Spin class. So
Okay.
we had a routine where on Wednesdays I would go to Pilates. He would do his bike rides or whatever he does, and then we'd go to Flywheel together and do a spin class together. We'd have lunch after that. So I think a routine is really important when you retire.
Mhm.
I joined a bridge group, I'm sorry, a bridge group with some friends, women who were similarly situated to me. That's since disbanded because people have moved out. And when COVID hit, we didn't have the ability to do that and we didn't want to do it virtually. But I think a routine is important. I think more exercise, learning something new, I think travel, you can fill a lot of your time with those sorts of things.
She's absolutely right about that because I picked up my bass guitar again. I'm playing. We got a little band with a bunch of old guys who are we're all trying to hang on to all what's left of our youth. And, so there are things to be done. They laugh at me because when they'll say they want to schedule band practice, I'll say, I got to check my calendar. And they'll go, what are you talking about?
Right.
I don't have anything scheduled. What are you doing?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I
So
don't schedule band practice. I do.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's actually sage advice because I think that's part of, I'm going to say the fear of, and even I think about that, like what would I be doing? Like I have additional interest. Obviously, I'm having, this podcast and conversations with you, which I love doing and writing the blog for fun. But just thinking about like day after day after day, if I wasn't running and busy, like what would that be like? Um And so I did a little bit of searching and I saw this outline of a framework of retirement. So there's the pre-retirement phase. That's when you're sort of thinking about it, and maybe for those who might be a little ahead of me, as I still have high school students, but pre-retirement phase, full retirement phase, in the honeymoon, and you're waking up at noon and going, oh, this is great, I get to wake up at noon. And then the disenchantment phase, loneliness, boredom, uselessness, and then reorientation, and finally reconciliation and stability. Did you hit the disenchantment phase? Did you hit a space of feeling useless? I know you weren't lonely necessarily, but
I haven't, because like you mentioned, there are consulting opportunities that I turned down because I just don't want to work every day for a consistent period of time anymore. I think the thing that I'd like to do is serve on corporate boards. That's proven to be more difficult. I've been on one, but it's a little more difficult now to do that. So I'm a little disenchanted with not being able to do that piece of retirement that I envisioned. But I tell people all the time, I'd rather be bored 25% of the time than miserable 100% of the time.
right.
And that's what retirement allows me to do. And I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, to a great extent.
I can relate to the whole sense of, do you feel useless kind of thing, because right after I left Channel 9, I had a couple of opportunities to do some other things that I tried out for and wanted to get and didn't get, right? And, part of it, I think, is also, you're 58, you're 60 years old, people aren't as interested in hiring you to do things, and so there was some of that, right? We go, oh man, I thought I could still do some stuff, but maybe I can't, and so that I went through a phase like that a little bit, and then, but you just got to realize that life changes, life goes on, things are different, and you adjust, and you also kind of start being grateful for being in the position that you're in. You're still healthy, especially this last year, we really been grateful for health, and you have enough resources to take a trip a month and do some of the things you'd like to do. So, I got no real complaints, but
Right.
Did I go through that phase of disenchantment a little bit? I definitely did, and I wonder, and I'll say this: is it more of a gender thing? The men tend to, we're so locked into who we are and what we do, and when you're not doing anything, well, then who the heck, what value do I really have? Right?
Right.
These are questions.
And I do think it's more of a male thing, Lisa. I think not just a male thing, but more of a male thing, because I think we as human beings, particularly accomplished human beings, tend to tie a lot of who we are to what we do. And when we do that, when we don't have that particular job or that status, we feel lost, we feel undervalued, we don't feel like we're worthy human beings anymore. And I have been fortunate to say, forget that.
Yeah.
I am fortunate and blessed to be able to do what I want whenever I want. I have enough money. I have Derek as a companion. I think that's important, to have somebody who can spend time with you, who can travel with you, because there are a lot of people who don't have that. So it can be difficult, and it can be more taxing for people than I think it's been for us.
I don't even want to think about what it would have been like in this year if Cheryl and I hadn't been together, because hanging out by yourself all the time, which is what people are going through, I don't know what I'd have done. I don't, I would have gone crazy, run up and down the street naked. What happened to him? He went.
I had to drive north and go ahead and get the straight jack and get you back together. So that was.
Derek's going there, but I think that we can only watch so many movies. Netflix, as we've seen. Ask a Netflix show, we've probably seen it.
Right.
That's a COVID thing.
Right. That's a COVID thing.
Right. And so I'm sure you're looking forward to resuming the monthly travel. I like that though as an outline. That's a good one. Yeah. And I like your what you're talking about, because really what you were just referencing there is this whole idea of building that new identity. So, Cheryl, you were a senior executive. Derek, you were a news anchor. And so you had what I'm going to say is you're walking around Washington, D.C., and I've been with you and seen it happen. I could see it evolving, right? Somebody's recognizing you there, and they are about to engage you like they know you, but they don't, they know you, you don't know them, right? I've seen that. I've seen that happen several times. And so, as more time passes that you're not on the air, I'm sure that has happened less frequently.
It
And so
has,
that's a change just in your navigation through the city.
I got to tell you though, I never when that stuff used to happen a lot, I never loved it. Right? It never gave me a big ego boost. I was never deeply into it. I used to tease her because people would come up to me and say, "Hey, I love your new show," or whatever. I go, "See, you need to be nicer to me." But
Right.
but the reality is, I never loved it that much, and now that it's not happening, I don't miss it.
Oh, okay.
Every
Okay.
once in a while, somebody will call and say, "Hey, aren't you still on the news?" I'll say, "I was off the news 6 years ago."
Right. Right, right.
How much
So, so that piece of it wasn't so much a part of your identity, but just the profession in and of itself.
profession and feeling like you had a value. I'll say something I probably shouldn't say. Toward the last few years of it, I didn't love it anymore.
Right.
I had loved that career and the whole thing, but the last few years of it, I had been at this one place for 12 years longer than I had never been anywhere. But the reality was, I stayed for a couple of reasons. I stayed because those are good jobs. You don't just leave them. And secondly, I had no idea what else I do.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so when I had left there, I had no idea what else I do.
Right. Right. And but what you're saying is, I think, what others are feeling, right? I have no idea what else I would do. So we just keep working because we don't really have a lens on that.
I have a plan B, and you got to start really think about it. I mean, and I can understand why people say, what, I'm going back to work, man. I'm not
Right.
watching this all day or whatever. It can be tough.
And,
Yeah.
and Lisa, I also think that with COVID, that people are reevaluating their lives. And one of the
Hmm.
things that I think, I've seen people who retire and then they drop dead, not because they don't know what to do, but because they have illnesses that they didn't know about, and they've worked all their lives and they've never had the opportunity to enjoy it. So I think with COVID and the number of people that we've lost to this disease, that people are saying, look, there's more to just work. There's more to life than just going through the motions every day. So hopefully people will think differently about retirement and have a plan to really enjoy life, because I think you really can if you think it through and you structure it properly and you decide to make that leap, that it can be a really good thing. It's not your old retirement, like we said, ARP. You're not sitting on the rocking chair on the front porch forever.
Right.
And you can volunteer, you can do consulting work, you can stay active and vital and contribute, but still have the flexibility to do what you want when you want to do it.
And I would say the thing that has come across my desk that I have found the most pleasure in is interacting with young people in terms
Uh,
of passing on whatever knowledge I've gained about the communications and broadcasting business to college students and that kind of thing. That's my favorite thing to do. People ask me if I'll come, and I say, absolutely, I will. Tell me what time to
right.
be. They say, well, aren't you busy? No, this is the most pleasurable, thing that I can do with my time in terms of something that's not just, traveling or hanging out. I love talking to young people, and that's been a real blessing to me.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that. And I know it's in our genes to teach. So, we just can't help it. You, me, and Dana too. We all love to kind of do that. So I could totally see that. And I know you're really good at it. So okay, so here's a question. Do you have a bucket list? And is there anything on it that in particular, anything special that you could share that you're thinking about that you'd like to do? Because I think sometimes it's, even when you talk about what would I do, it's even coming up with, well, what are those things that would be like once in a lifetime things? I used to say I'm not jumping out of any planes because I got two little kids and my time to do that has passed. Right? I'll never be considering jumping out of a plane. But what's on your list? What things are you hoping to get to?
Well, we checked off a lot,
We
actually,
did. We
in
have done
terms
a
of
lot of things.
places to see. Now, I have a very grand thing that I don't know if I'll realize it or not, but it's traveling, maybe not around the world, but traveling significantly on a private plane with like 10 couples.
Ooh.
So,
Okay.
and I've
Okay.
seen those kind of charters where 10 couples get together. I've seen them go around the world, or they do 5 or 6 destinations at a really high level. So,
Yeah.
since I've done a lot of the travel things, tick those off. Something like that would be on my bucket list.
I will
Okay.
hang with her. I think that's a wonderful idea. I
I do too. I'm thinking these kids might need to sign up for the armed services, and we, you know what I mean. We use some college funds, and let's go. You know.
that's I'm like you. To be honest, I'm a little bit like Shirley, and I've done most of the things that I ever dreamed. My dreams have been mostly fulfilled. I
I,
took my broadcasting career as far as I could. I used to race bikes. I did all that. I played in bands and did all this. So now I'm traveling around with my great companion and love here, and I mean, you really can't ask for a better situation, and we're enjoying it.
yeah.
And I do think it's important to stay healthy in retirement.
Whew.
Yeah.
I think it's important to exercise more. I try and make him eat more healthily
Oh,
and less sweets and things like that. But I think you can exercise more, you can really take care of yourself and live longer and live healthily, because I think that's a big deal in
yeah.
retirement. People get
Yeah.
sedentary, they get depressed, they just don't really take care of themselves. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's no question that she's been an energizer in terms of that. Seriously, pushing me to do better because I'll tend to, fall off the wagon and eat and drink the wrong things. But there's definitely a lot of times when I won't bring that candy home from the safe place. I know certain people are not in favor.
Right. Right. It's not going to be met with approval. So
Oh,
you just don't even do it. Don't
don't even
even do
do it. Don't even do it.
it. Well, I have appreciated this conversation so much, and I really feel like you have offered great insight and wisdom to the audience, because we're all heading in this space. And I think the beautiful thing about the two of you is that, Cheryl, you had an opportunity to choose it, which gave you a certain experience into it. Derek, you didn't choose it at that moment, and so you too had a different entry. So we're kind of covering both of those lenses, which I think both show up for folks. But I think you have also demonstrated that it can be really great, really fun. It sounds enviable to have a trip a month and Monday matinees and all of that. So looking forward to it. It sounds like a really far time away for me, but and I am definitely in on this round the world trip, Cheryl. We're gonna have to take this one offline and figure out how to make this come together.
and Lisa,
But
I need to mention is that neither of us have children. So
Ah,
that made it a lot easier for us to do this at a younger age
that
too.
is true.
that's
I've
true.
heard those kids spend a lot of your money.
They spend a lot of you don't know the half. You don't know the half. But I think that, that's an interesting point, just in terms of you do hit the space of when they leave. So
Right.
outside of the financial piece, the emotional transition actually has, I'm going to say, some additional layers, because it's not just leaving the workplace and the teams that you're involved in, all of that, but then the children, if you've done things the way you'd like to, have also left and off to doing what they want to do, and that gives you just another piece to sort of maneuver through.
It's so funny because I've had conversations with parents who are getting ready to move into being empty nesters, and they complain bitterly about all the money their kids take and all the energy and time and everything, and then when the kids leave, they're in tears, like, oh, I
Right.
can't leave. So it's
Right. It's true. It's
but
true.
but like you said, but as our friends, it's funny because a lot of our friends have kids. Their kids have all left now. They're ready to hang out with us.
Right. Right. And well, I mean, that's what I would see. I mean, I think, the other thing that I'm hearing from you is like having that circle of friends, because knowing you, Cheryl, you're like you're thinking about those 10 couples on that charter plane, but 10 couples. You know what I mean? You're gonna be culling the list to see who's gonna make the plane and who isn't, right? So that's a different part of it. And some of us have spent a lot of time working and haven't really built up the social circles that would support not being in the office, right? Just in terms of sort of the relationships and the engagement. So I think that's another important piece too.
I think that's really right, Lisa. And someone at work teases me because she says that I'm a social butterfly. She called me a jack. She said, because you're content to go to your exercise class, meet me for lunch, go home, do what you have to do, then meet somebody for dinner, and then go on your trip. And, so it can be a really nice thing if you plan it right and if you have the right social networks to keep you active and engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's an important thing. And Derek, you and I know that as our father aged, he became more isolated, and that wasn't helpful, particularly as he, then ultimately developed Alzheimer's, and so that piece of it is important too, as you talked, Cheryl, about staying healthy and staying, just keeping yourself physically well. But the social network is a part of that.
I think that it's, and I think you know this about our father. Certainly, it's true of me. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have the social network that I have. She's the one who keeps in touch with everybody and has all these friends and all this. I'm just kind of along for the ride.
Right.
And I think that's true for a lot of men. And when guys, when their wives die or partner goes away, they struggle because they don't have the same social network, that their significant other was able to provide. So
Yeah.
I'm not letting her go.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's important. That was a good point to say, because our mother did precede our father, and so he was by himself in that way. That
Yep.
whatever, so they had limited social because they were both super introverted in some respects, but whatever they did have, she would have brought, right? And so that's that's an important call out too, just in terms of sort of thinking about how are you positioned, who are you in relationship with, how can you expand that, how can you, and how are you physically, how are you working on that. So you're just given tons of insights. So this was a great conversation, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We had a great time.
Thank you for being here. You've been listening to Inputs to Action. I'm Dr. Lisa Toppin. We've been talking about retirement with my brother and sister-in-law, Derek Mcginty, Cheryl Cooper. They've given us great advice about how to have a great retirement. So thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.